Get in here quick.
I didn't do anything.
Okay. I have to tell you the origin of this, and it was many nights in Toronto, hanging out with people, and going on science fiction movies, and getting onto a rant that's much longer than this, known as the science fiction story master arc. So, are we getting the audio up here? Can you all hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. Good. Oh, that's better. I like it. I like to hear my own voice amplified. That way no hecklers can yell over me during the telling of this. Okay, so that's the origin of this. It's very different for me. It's very fun. It's a piece of spoken word, essentially, and it requires no slides, and I don't get shocked while I'm setting it up. So that's good. All of that is good. Okay? And I'm recording it so that afterwards maybe we can all enjoy it. All right? Real quick, how many people here have seen Prometheus? Oh, so this is an informed crowd. How many people here liked Prometheus?
Wow. Everybody get out.
Interesting concept.
Yeah, the little fewer less hands went up there. There's a good movie in Prometheus, right? But I, like a lot of people, found that this was the repetition over and over and over and over and over. So I created a sequel to Prometheus. It is called Prometheus Down. And it will change everything. And it will make the movie better, and it will show a way that movies can be made better. That's a tall order. And before I tell you about Prometheus Down, I actually have to get some stuff off of my chest. It's probably boring. So while I'm doing that, do your best to remember Prometheus, okay? It begins with a giant melting, right? Then there's the most beautiful archaeology ever, both with people and where they're digging. There's a great and boring journey to a distant planet in which a lot of hijinks go on. There are various creatures that come out. There's a losing of religion. There's a whole lot of great action and fight scene. And then there is a rolling spaceship, and then a spaceship taking off. If you remember, a few occasions of things popping out of people or being, birthed in ways. Right, okay, so just meditate on the movie while I get something off of my chest. And that is the benefit of the doubt goes to the artist. I believe this, and I believe it means two things. First, the artist gets the benefit of the doubt. This means it doesn't matter if he intended to make something great. It doesn't matter if he intended to put a message in a movie. He gets that credit anyways. It's a deal that we make with them. But there's another side to it. That side means that once they put the movie out there, or the piece of art out there, it now belongs to us, the viewers. And if we find a message in there, and we find enough evidence to support it, well then that's what it means to us. So there's two sides of that deal. I'm going to lean on that second part quite heavily here. Okay? And while I tell and use it to lever myself into another creature. So, with that said, that's our ground rules here. Let's get on with it. Prometheus Down. Prometheus Down opens in the way that only Prometheus Down can open. And that's on a spaceship, a rather large semicircular spaceship, of who we know there are 3 guests. We know that there is the head of an intelligent cyborg. We know that there is a woman scientist who recently has pretty much lost all faith in her religion. And we know somewhere in stasis there's an engineer, because the ship kind of went flying. We know they kind of like store these things underground with engineers in them, right? And there is a pressing question on everyone's mind, us the viewers, probably not the mind of the engineer, but certainly on the mind of the woman scientist who's recently lost all faith in her religion. And that would be, hey cyborg, what the crap did you say back there? Because if you remember the previous movie, there's a great discovery, perhaps our God. And then the robot speaks his language, and he says, and then all pandemonium breaks loose. And two people get killed with one swipe of the hand, and robot loses his head, and this cascades and a whole bunch of things in the rolling spaceship. What the crap did you say back there? And the robot head says, well, nothing. I have no idea. All I did was introduce us. All I said was, this is a boy scientist and a girl scientist, and this is my father. Whoa. Right there. In an instant, in her mind, it all comes back. Her faith, her belief in goodness in the universe, and hope. Because in an instant, she knows everything has been fixed for her. She understands. What does she understand? Well, the next 20 minutes of the movie are going to be a great boring period of ennui, which is part of the alien canon, where all manner of filmmaking devices will be used to explain why it is in an instant she got these things back. Right? And it has to do with Engineer himself. Right? Keep in mind, this is a big galaxy. And in this galaxy, there are 3 pan-galactic species. Right? And when you're a pan-galactic species, when you're an optimate species, reproduction is a little different than like 2 people getting together and out comes a kid. It's about spreading yourself around the galaxy. It's about spawning whole planetary-sized societies, right? And Engineer is one of these races, one of these pan-galactic races, and they have a belief system that reproduction should come through sacrifice. And of course, this is what we see at the beginning of the movie. He has a sacramental right. This is ancient earth, of these humans. He takes it, it melts down his DNA. The DNA goes out into the environment, combines with things in the environment, and it creates children for him and their species. Right? And of course, he leaves instructions with these children, come back and visit us someday when you're sufficiently advanced. So, they're doing this all over the place. They got to know who's going to thrive and who's not, and that's like the simple litmus test to do that. Now, if you were going to take that as your pan-galactic reproduction methodology, it would be really handy to have something that would break down DNA and allow it to recombine with other things. Well, the good news is there is a second pan-galactic species. At this point, it's basically insect-like, and this is its strategy. It actually uses this strategy. This, of course, is Alien, and that's one of the first myths. This is not an Alien Genesis movie. It's not. It's a story about original sin. More on that in a moment. Alien has existed as long as Engineer has existed. They kind of grew up together. They're contemporaries. Alien is just this insect species, and they reproduce by producing some sort of serum with their gonads that allows them to break down DNA, and it steals the most aggressive, survivalist parts of that DNA and incorporates it with its own, and that's how it. So all it has to really do is send 1 or 2 down, and you can take over the biology of a plant, of a whole planetary system, and turn it. And that's its pan-galactic strategy for reproduction. Well, if you're an engineer, you're like, well, that's useful. That's useful. If I could get me some of that and take out the evil parts of it, or the parts that just seek aggressive, well, then I would have something that would give me a way through sacrifice to create whole new groups of civilizations. So this is the first key here. She realizes this is not a bomb factory. These are not warships. This is a monastery, is what it is. Right? Now, it's a monastery run by gods. Maybe she thinks these gods. She knows they're not gods. We all know they're not gods because we were told they were not gods. When the pilot flies down, he says, God doesn't make straight lines. Of course not, because they're not gods. They're just us. They're a more advanced version of us. We're the same species. And when you think pan-galactically, that you have short ones and tall ones is irrelevant. It's just the levels of advancement of the same species. Right? So here's what Engineer does. He goes and gets himself an alien, removes his gonads, which has the secret sauce in it. Of course, this needs to be stored carefully in ampules, and then he ferments it. How does he do that? Well, he takes it to this planet, which has these certain crystalline structures that put off some sort of radiation, and when exposed to it for enough time, the black serum reduces to a more crystalline serum, and it's purified. This is a monastery, and they're making sacramental wine in the headroom. But if there are two things that define humanity as a species, they are the following. One, an undying need for religion. Engineer and his need for sacrificial rites, humanity and their need to believe in gods. And the other one is sloppy lab work. Because if you look across the history of humanity and Alien, you're going to find many, many moments of very sloppy lab work. Humans just can't help it, right? We make grand spaceships and then we get on track mealworms onto them. And then we're not even careful when we go on our, let's go, weather's coming in, perfect time to go exploring, let's go. And we go, we track them out. There's a couple scenes that would help this. One is when David is going around the spaceship in the moment of great ennui, being very, very bored, and as a cyborg whose mind works really fast, this is extremely boring to him. There's a scene where he bends over, picks something up, and they neglect to show us that it's a worm that has been come on. The worm that gets brought to that is brought by the humans into the headroom. Of course, when they get there, they're already witnessing another human accident when we see the green holograms, right? Because someone dropped an ampule. Happens all the time. Sloppy lab practices. This case, though, it's going to have huge ramifications for the universe. Because one of their children's societies has shown up right in the middle of hazmat procedures. They beat the cleanup team. And this is going to create huge problems for the entire universe. So they've gotten there, and there's no engineers there because they're either dead or they've bugged off or they've gone into stasis, and they're waiting for the cleanup team to come in so they can get back to producing sacrificial wine. These are not warships, they are delivery trucks. This is a monastery, right? And they go in there, and they track this worm in there, and that's when we're told the serum is what it is. Because that little mealing worm wiggling in there, it gets a little bit of sweating black serum on it, it turns into a giant penile vagina snake. It starts sucking faces, right? Now you get it, though. Like, if you go around full circle, you realize how she instantly can get her faith back, because she knows he is not angry with them. He's disappointed in them. When David introduces, and he says, "This is my father," engineer sees his heart is broken. He sees children who've gone off the path. They are trying to create life without sacrifice. Nothing could be more abhorrent to an engineer. This throws him into a rage and immediately destroys the man who made it and what it is. We can't. He's just absolutely disappointed. You can't have this in the universe. You've gone astray. Now she knows, oh, that's not all of humanity. It's just Wayland. We can convince them that we're worthy of their patronage, of their love, of their respect, that we can continue to learn from them. Hope is back. They weren't going to destroy Earth. They want to teach us the value of sacrifice. Okay, so now she has her hope back. This is great. At which point we can get back to the movie. Because we have this spaceship flying. And we assume it's these three people, but it can't be. It would be a very boring movie. We know there's going to be one more, and what could that be? Well, in the process of the accident, something was created. There was a moment of original sin, right? The virus, in a very soft form, got into the woman, and it took parts of femininity, but it didn't get all the job done. She ended the process early, at which point it impregnated the engineer, and it got knowledge. It got knowledge, and it got feminine wisdom. You know, the female spiritually stands for a lot of incredible things, including that of creating life. in knowledge is very important. Without knowledge, we have no morality. There's a difference between being evil and actually knowing evil. Up to this point, alien is just doing evil. It's just reproducing. It's an insect. But what comes out of engineer, what is birthed out of engineer, it has an umbilical cord and all, is the first queen alien. And she has the knowledge of engineer and the ability to reproduce, not through this other insectoid methods. Which means she is now aware, or will become aware, of what they are doing. It's an original sin. From this point forward, all aliens that come from her are responsible for their actions, therefore have a choice to make. If they continue to reproduce in this manner, we could consider them actually the most evil force in the universe. And there's more than that. Because there is one thing we really know about Queen Alien. She loves to hang on the outside of spaceships. So here we're going through the galaxy in our semicircular spaceship. We've just spent 20 minutes, an enormous period of ennui, having all this explained to us visually, using all the tools of filmmaking, realizing our hope is back, and there's a little bit of acid drip. Now things are going to speed up a little bit. Because women scientists and head of the robot are like, I thought we were through with this. It's like, no, she was hanging on the outside the whole time. It's just what they do, and they're going to keep doing it, and it's going to be a major problem for all the remainder of history. And so there's a whole bunch of chasing around, running around, and it's good action. It's action on par with Aliens versus Predator, or like the beginning of Aliens 3, right? It's kind of that slow action. The reason is so that we could be explained to us, shown to us, that she's getting more intelligent. At first it seems like she's just an alien. With their wit they can exceed her, but then it's clear that she is sentient, that she is actually learning and intelligent, and this becomes a problem. And she's like, we got to wake up this engineer. And David's like, no, we don't wake up engineers. I don't really like them. She's like, I don't really care what you like. We're going to wake them up. They wake him up, and she's like, ignore him. I would stomp on him if I was big enough. We're sorry. We believe in sacrifice. All of that. They have a little coming to terms, and then she's like, but right away he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's a problem. Let's go into containment. We got us an alien here. That's a big problem. And so he joins the battle, and it looks like this is going to be successful. But then, even with him, we realize she's getting intelligent, and very quickly thinking, there's no way he can win this battle. What's going to happen? And it ends up into a very tense point of standoff, and you're wondering what can break this standoff. And this standoff is a very important moment for the entire universe. You got engineer, queen alien, the humans kind of don't matter, and they all could just destroy each other, or she could win, and we see them like just framed, kind of like in the driving room in a really nice setting, and we pull back and we see the ship. And the reason we're showing the ship, because this is the moment where the universe is saved or not saved. It's a pivotal. If we could extinguish this now, it would be like Eve never giving Adam the apple. We could remain with our innocence, or a terrible evil is going to be unleashed on the universe. Pandora's box will be open, never be closed again. And we pull back in order to see that set against the solar system. We pull back farther. We're seeing just the immenseness of space and the tininess of the ship and how important it is to all that's surrounded. And then we pull back even more, and we're wondering, well, at this point, why are we still pulling back? And we have a gorgeous star field, and we're like getting a little bored. And then we notice over here a small twinkle, the kind of twinkle that tells you in science fiction something big is about to happen. Because remember I said there are 3 pan-galactic species in this universe. And the third one is a pirate species. They really haven't developed their own technology. They steal it. And it was society built on caste systems and honor. And at that moment, a predator ship decloaks. Because predator. This is a different kind of predator. We see him and we're like, oh, he has the status of a predator who's taken an alien before. He has the mark. He has his shoulder gun. He has his wrist thing. But he doesn't have a helmet. Why not? Because they get the helmets from engineers. So he's decloaked, he's like, whoa, twofer. Another alien on my scope. And what's that? An engineer. I'm gonna get my butt over to that ship, and I'm gonna get me my helmet, raise the level up in my society, and get me some more alien. That's awesome. So, but he's like, beep, 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 vroom, and he breaks the standoff. He appears, he's like, pew, 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 and everyone scrambles, and the whole standoff is broken. Now we get the payoff. Now we get the payoff. For the next 20 ship-destroying minutes, we get to find out who would win in a three-way battle between Predator, Engineer, and Queen Alien. And the humans are extinguished in the first 60 seconds. They're just completely wiped out like ants on a soccer pitch because they don't even matter. And this is a great raging battle, and it goes on with all manner of great fighting special effects that great writers are going to have to make up. It's going to be amazing and explosive. But Queen Alien's going to keep learning the whole time, and Engineer starts figuring this out. So during this whole melee, at some point, he's like, we can't win this. I'm checking out. I have to do something here for the universe. He's not in it for the battle like Predator is. He wants to genuinely kill her and save the whole universe. He's like, well, I'm not going to do it with my own muscle and might. So he suits up, gets into the driver's seat, and says, I'm going to plot me a course for that star. Finds the nearest star, the biggest gravity well, just points the ship towards it. Meanwhile, Predator is kind of also figuring out, I kind of dropped into a hot situation. But you don't get to drop out of a situation when you're Predator, and we all know what Predators do when they get on the losing side of a battle. So Queen Alien is there, she makes a ducky move, he's there, he's like, well, let's start the countdown, because not worked out for me, and I can't show my face back at Predatorville. 5, 4, 3, 2, ah! Queen stabs him, he falls over, he grabs her tail. We're wondering, just an explosion, and we're like, somebody tell Engineer. There's no one to tell Engineer. And the Engineer is there in the driver's seat, and he's thinking, I have to save the universe. How fast can I get to this star? And he's pushing the ship, and you know, spaceships don't make noise. But it has all those attributes and effects of a ship just going faster than it should. And then he pushes it more, then he's going, and you're seeing a beep, 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 and the computers start making engineer noises like, I don't think we should be doing this. I don't think we just like, go, we're doing this, go, full manual, let's go. And you can almost feel the whole ship shaking on the outside. It's going inside, outside, inside. Beep. And right when you're thinking it's going to happen, the universe will be saved. All trace of this mistake is going to be released. It's going to be erased from everything. Right at that moment. Engineer's chest explodes. Ow! Scurry something. It was all for nothing. He had been impregnated all along before they even woke him up. And he falls backwards into a familiar pose with his rib cage open. And we're seeing the computer, and we're seeing without his input, it's falling into another gravity well, doing what spaceships do in space and come to the closest object. And it falls, and it goes, and it goes. And great spaceship crashing scene. Pretty much gets buried under the ground. And now all is lost, and we pull out. You see this dark, barren, smoldering pile of what just looks like rock now. And we pull out, and we see this continent, we see this planet, and we pull out, and we see more of the planet and some of the star system, and we pull out, and the planet looks funny. And like, it's like, why does it get hazy? All of a sudden we pull out again, and we say, oh, because we see that it's on the screen. It's on a monitor of sort. We pull out again. We see this monitor is on a spaceship of familiar technology with a couple guys sitting there, and one of them points at that planet, looks at the other and says, "We're going to mine down there? Get another movie!" Doc, it's Prometheus down.